So good afternoon. We've got a short session we'd just like to share with you what was I worried about thought. If you are thinking of going into franchising, you clearly would have some things that you're thinking about, and you need to get those questions answered. That's why you come here. So my name is Warren Valentine. I am the founder and owner of Gutter-Vac. Our business started back in 1995 from an idea we had from our plumbing business, and our first franchise was in 2000. So we have about 52 franchisees and about 85 franchise territories. Our territories will be full at 120, so we're well through our expansion. We thought we'd use the presentation time to address some of those questions and concerns that you have when you're buying into a business. And what was I most worried about was one of the questions. What could go wrong? And if it does go wrong, how can we cover our bets, as it were? So I suppose it's easy for me to tell you that, you know what, if you're buying a franchise and you haven't got a problem. But that can still be a concern, and that can also still go wrong. So hopefully we can help you with that. I've got to do two things at once here. So rather than me tell you about what's going to happen, we thought we'd bring in one of our franchisees, and we'd ask Christy to give us her experience of what was involved in their decision making when they came into the franchise world, and how they took the leap of faith and what chances and what risks they took. So, hello Christy.
Hello Warren.
Christy calls me Was. You can do that today if you like.
I thought I better not.
Yeah, I thought you better not. So I'm going to let Christy tell you her experience of the Gutter-Vac business and talk about her business. So I'll hand over to you. So first question is, why did you do this? And tell us, what was your thought pattern as you went into the business?
So we bought an existing franchise. Our business had been going for 15 years in our territory. So when we bought it, we had it had a solid base. That we knew it was foundational, but there was so much opportunity, and I knew that whoever bought our franchise would just make the most of it. So I wanted that to be us. So we bought in 2019, May 2019, just over 3 years ago. And it was a massive change for us. My husband's an electrician by trade. He had worked for the same company for 22 years. So it was a massive change, but he was ready for that. And yeah, we knew we had to make it happen.
So why did you give up your security blanket? And that is, Murray was an electrician with the Public Works.
Yep.
You're actually working for us.
Yep.
You still are.
Yep.
So Christy likes the cake and eat it, so she kept the job with us as well as by a franchise. So why did you give up that security blanket? What was the important thing to you?
The change, the flexibility, the freedom of owning our own business, from being a little bit more in control than what we were by both being employed by other people. So it gave my husband a lot more flexibility. He can set his own hours, he can do all that sort of stuff. So it was a change predominantly for him, because I obviously kept my job with head office part-time. I work part-time in the business, part-time for head office, but it allowed Murray the flexibility. So it was a risk. We have a mortgage, we have 3 kids, so it was a big risk, but I believed in the system, and I knew that there was already a healthy income, and if we put some effort into it, we would increase that income, which thankfully paid off for us.
So how long did it take you to make up your mind or make that decision where you jumped off the cliff and went, we're going to do this? How long was that process?
Well, as soon as I found out that our territory was for sale, I had to convince my husband. So I wanted it. It was convincing him. But once I said to him and I was able to show him what the opportunities were in there, what I was able to identify that it was a possibility, and once we were able to know that we could fund the purchase of the business and keep going, It didn't take much. I think the first inquiry was in January, and then we settled in May. So only a couple of months.
Did you consider failure? I mean, did you?
No.
Well, you didn't. But what about Murray? Was he concerned? Have sleepless nights?
Yes, we were both concerned about failure, but Murray believed in me and believed in what I knew. So that was where the trust. So it was all on me. So I couldn't fail.
So your responsibility.
It was my responsibility.
So in that case, then, did you have a plan B?
No, plan B was for plan A not to fail.
That's a good plan B. It's a good plan B. Okay. When did you realise you'd made the right decision?
So probably after the first 12 months. So when we bought our business, it was turning over about $285,000 for the year. The first year, I just wanted to make that same income. As long as I did that, I knew that we'd made the right decision, and then everything that we had been told was as it was. The first financial year, we did $350,000. So I was like, okay, we've ticked the box, we've cemented what we were doing, we're on the right path.
So this slide is your revenue, which we're willing for us to put up. You want to tell the folks where those landmarks were and where you want to go. What's your goal and what do you see happening?
Yeah, sure. So 2019-20 was our first financial year. And we had one truck on the road, or one unit on the road vacuuming and doing the work. We had 2 technicians in that truck, and that was 352 for that financial year. 2020 and 2021, so in the October, November, we had a huge storm in 2020 here in Brisbane, and we suddenly found ourselves 6 to 7 weeks out, people waiting for gutter cleans. I knew at my house I wouldn't wait 7 weeks to have my gutters clean when there's competitors. So by May 2021, we had another unit on the road. So we then had 2 units and 3 to 4 technicians. We were just putting on a new guy by the end of the 21 financial year. And then we did 404 that financial year. And then in 21-22 financial year, so the year just gone, we had 2 units on the road, 4 employees, and growth, and we turned over $650,000 for that financial year. So we have literally taken delivery of a 3rd unit this week. We will intend to run 3 units with 4 employees, and our target is $800,000 this financial year.
I like that because I'm a franchisor, so I'm a happy little Vegemite. But I think what's behind this, rather than forget about Gutter-Vac or the business model that we're looking at there in front of you, is the commitment to following process and system. So the one thing that Christy's been good at is she is a process and the systems person herself, and she's more than happy to follow those systems. So no matter what brand you are, and all the brands that are out here, all of those systems and processes, and Brian's just been talking about that as well. Without those systems and processes, you've got nothing. So if the brand that you're looking at buying into doesn't have a system, doesn't have processes, and doesn't have a recipe to follow, then I'd run as fast as you can. I wouldn't get involved in that. But a good brand will have good systems, it'll have good processes, and it'll have a process that you can have and get comfort from. So all businesses have ups and downs.
They do.
Trust me, I know, I've been doing it for 42 years. What was your biggest down? What was the worst time that you've had since you've been in business?
I think for us, we have had fairly steady employees. We actually, when we bought our business, it came with an employee. So in May this year, we unexpectedly had an employee resign, which obviously was not part of our growth plan. So that for us was a reassessment point. We kind of went, okay, this is going to put a spanner in the works. What do we do? How do we deal with it? So I think for me, that was the low. But on the flip side, it forced us to look at our business and the way we operate, and it actually resulted in us buying the 3rd truck instead of running out and hiring a new employee. Okay,
so then what's your biggest up?
$250,000 growth in a year.
That's pretty easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's really good. That's really good. So, do we have any questions? Anybody got a question about anything?
I can always ask questions.
I got the lotto numbers for tonight if you're interested.
Well, I want one
Just
for
got
next
them before.
Thursday.
Yeah, I went over and saw them. They've given me the lotto numbers, so happy to
Christy,
share that.
you mentioned that you've got kids.
Yeah.
3 of them, plus Murray and a pigeon. Same thing happened yesterday at the same time. Must be the same pigeon, just comes by around 3 o'clock. How much of was it a worry for you going into the business knowing that you were also managing a household, 3 boys, lots of sporting commitments? Did that affect your decisions when you were thinking about getting into a franchise?
It did. It most certainly did, because every business has admin. So it absolutely did. My initial thought was to just see how long that would take, what was involved, learn that, and see how many hours were involved in the admin side of our business. I very quickly realised that my strength was not actually being the phone call person, answer the cold calls, answer the customers' calls, and do all that. So I hired somebody to do that, so I didn't have to.
And being scared of hiring people is probably one of the big threats that people have when they go into business. They think they've got to do it all themselves, but you can't. And the guy that runs, whoever started BHP, he clearly was a smart man because he got out from behind digging the coal out and got other people to do it. You've got to get out and you've got to have other people help you grow your business if you want to grow your business. Or you bought a job. That's the alternative.
Another question is, a lot of people worry when they're going into business. Like, I know you said your plan B was plan A, not to fail, but before you actually take that leap and join a franchise or buy a business, there's that thought pattern of like, what will everybody else think around me, and what happens if it doesn't work? Now, add to that, you were working at head office, so you also had the other 80 franchisees looking at you, going, "What happens?"
Yeah.
Was that an underlying worry before you started, that everybody knew what was going to happen and you had to prove it?
Absolutely. That was an added pressure, and I feel like it still is a pressure that the other 80 franchisees look at me, because I do have that other knowledge and I do have the behind the scenes, and I've worked for head office for 15 years. So, and I think that was my driver of plan A not failing, because I didn't want that to happen. And I didn't want to let my family down. I didn't want to, I didn't want to lose my house. I didn't want to lose all that stuff. So I absolutely had to make it work. I believed in the system. I believed in the processes. I knew what was involved. And we just had to buckle down and get that done. And that was my plan A, and really my only plan.
So there is, the 3 big questions are: I really want to have my own business. That's easy. Words are cheap and they're quick. If it doesn't work, I could lose everything. So that's a sobering thought, and that's the leveler. And then I'm sick of working for somebody else. More motivation to do it, to take that step. So personally, from my point of view, I really take my hat off to anybody that leaves that security blanket. I finished my apprenticeship when I was 19. I finished it on the Friday afternoon. I was married on the Saturday, and I went into business 12 months later. And I've never worked for anybody since. So my daughter tells me I'm unemployable because for 45 years I've worked for myself. And I must agree that I don't think I could work for anybody else. But I actually am in awe of people that do leave their security blanket, who do leave their employment and their safety zone to take a chance on being in business for themselves. So I know financial security is the secret to all of this. Having comfort in work for yourself is great, but you need financial security. So that's the important thing. So, Trace, any more questions from the floor?
Otherwise, I can continue asking questions. Everybody seems to leave it to me to ask questions.
Sure.
Christy, I want to come back to your kids, because I think that's a big one for a lot of people getting into business. What impact has it had for your kids watching you and Murray go into business and working hard and making this happen?
That's a good question. They, I think for them, they see that the business is, they always say to me, why does everything have to have Gutter-Vac on it? But they see that there is, we spend a lot of time in the business, but they can also see the positive changes. They can see that clearly to them things are changing, as in we've gone from 1 truck to 2 trucks to 3 trucks. We now have a warehouse, so business has moved from the house to there. So things are changing. They can see that we have conversations with them about, hard work, and that my son is about to go into year 11, really has no idea what he wants to do. And I've said to him that, maybe what you want to do is actually be a business owner. So by the time you're 25, let's make that a goal. Maybe you don't know what you want to do, but you might fall into being a business owner, and that could be really, businesses could be anything. I find that people that go into business maybe didn't start off, specifically being like, how did you get into that path? Well, so I think that it has shown them that there's opportunities and that there's, a different concept to just going and getting a job and working for anybody.
Warren, I have a question for you. Even though we're talking about what are you worried about, when a franchisee comes to you and they're considering getting into a business, but they're really nervous about it and they're worried about a lot of things, what do you need to do as a franchisor to help them make that decision and to help them through their own confidence and their own worries and fears?
We've got to find out what they're worried about. So the general thing for us is, and most of the service industry would be, where will I get my leads from? So, that's a pinpointed item, but that's the sort of stuff. You've got to find out what people are worried about. What do they need comfort in? Some people might have all the money in the world to buy the business, and that's finance is not a problem, but they don't want to buy into something and then just see it fail. So they need comfort in all different things. So you've got to ask what they are.
We had a discussion earlier today in the seminar session that was talking about making sure when you're talking to franchisors that you actually tell them what's actually going on for you, because they can't help you if you don't actually share what those fears are.
That's right, yeah. Probably one of my, unfortunately, we're always quicker than the time, so we help you get through the day fast. One of my final comments is about franchising can minimise the most risks that are in any business. Because when you buy into a franchise, you're buying into something that's already done. Somebody's already done it, and they're already using it. So, there's background there that you can access and leverage off. Sorry?
No.
I thought you were going to ask me something important.
No, we have a question for you, though.
Right, okay. So the business experience that's already out there, the older the franchise system is, obviously, the more experience there is, and there's more comfort you can take that, okay, they've got 150 or 1,000 franchises, not many are falling over. You've got to say that's a good brand. Is that what I want to do? Then if it's what you want to do and it's a good, safe brand, spend your money, away you go. I must say, I was in business myself for 28 years as a plumber, had a plumbing business, and I don't think we could have run the business worse than what we did. It was bloody awful when I look back at the mistakes we made. And the good thing about that is we built the franchise system on all the mistakes we made in our plumbing business. So what should have we done? We should have done this, 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 and this. So we learnt that. I got involved with the FCA. I got mentors around me, and I learned how to put that together. So that took 20 odd years. We've been going 23 years selling franchises. We still haven't got it right. Every year we upgrade our systems and our training, so it never stops. So, if you want to follow systems, you want to follow a recipe book, join a franchise. If you don't want to follow systems, you don't want to be told what to do, you don't want to follow the recipe, don't buy a franchise. All right? Go out and buy whatever you want outside the franchising world. Franchising is about following systems. That's the secret.
I have a question.
Yes.
Christy, I was listening from my stand just before, and you said you analysed the business that you bought and saw there was massive opportunity, and that's why you wanted that particular franchise.
Yeah.
Given it was an established business, what did you see that the previous owner either wasn't doing or wasn't doing well enough that you thought you could change?
Yeah, so I was aware that the previous owner was comfortable. He had reached a point in his business where he didn't need to advertise, didn't want to expand. He was living quite comfortably on the income that it was doing and everything like that. So the previous owner of ours actually owned 3 territories, and he sold the other 2 off, and ours was the last one. I knew from the amount of times that I saw his vehicle driving around our territory that it wasn't a lot. That there was a lot of schools and a lot of I just knew that it could do more potentially than what it was doing. So when I got more involved from the January to kind of the March before we signed any documents, I looked at what he was doing. I looked at his customers and I looked at the scheduling, and I just knew that there was, 30 or 40,000 residentials in our territory. We have about 35 schools. We have it just had the opportunity to do a lot more. So once I looked into that, I was like, it just needs a little bit of effort. And when the previous owner told me that he spent less than 4 hours a week on the business, I was like, it just needs a little bit of love. That's all it needed, and that's what we gave it.
We're really happy to see the new owner come on board. That's a great question. And can I just add to that every business and all of our franchises, we get some resell and they get to a level and they've got this sort of income. And everybody that sells, when the new person comes on, there's always an uplift in income. So I sort of like to put a golf analogy to it. No matter how good your golf round is, and the guy who wins the PGA, he could have always played a better shot in his 3 rounds of golf. There's always a shot somewhere that he could have done better. You can always make these businesses better. No matter which one of these in this hall you buy, you can plant yourself on it and you can make it great, and then you can sell it. Just remember, small business is all about revenue and cash flow, so you can use that money to buy property and assets for wealth. Very few businesses are wealth creators, but they provide cash flow for you to buy assets to develop wealth. Now that's taught that by an old bloke that's over on our stand. It's a fantastic tip in life, I think. I wish I'd learned that at 21. But anyway, there you go, Trace. I think we're done. So thank you so much for the opportunity, everybody, and I hope the rest of your show is very rewarding.